Hello and welcome back, my favorite movement enthusiasts. Today I have something very special for you, which admittedly I say every single video. If you've used your arms before, chances are you've hurt your shoulder before. I would go even further. If you have an arm, chances are you've hurt your shoulder before, and I don't want that to happen again, which is why today we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to keep those shoulders not only healthy, but also strong and mobile, and maybe even go so far as to rehabilitate your shoulder if you already have an impingement problem, a frozen shoulders problem, lack of mobility problem, whatever it is, we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to do it today. So if you're ready, let's get right into it. So to keep those shoulders healthy, there are three things we need to work on. We need to work on our flexibility, of course, because increased range of motion is going to decrease the chances of getting injured again. Second, we need strength, because having weak shoulders can lead to injuries as well. And number three is having control over our entire musculature that is surrounding our shoulders, meaning every single muscle connected to our rotator cuff and to our shoulder blades. So let's get ready and start out with flexibility first. We're gonna grab ourselves a stick. If you don't have a stick, a resistance band will do. If you don't have a resistance band, I am sure you can find something that resembles a stick, and we're gonna grab it a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, or depending on your mobility or lack thereof, even further. So the further we move outwards, the easier the exercise is going to be and the less flexibility it is going to require. We're gonna start with full-on rotations, backwards and forward. You notice there is not a lot of flexibility going on there, so we're gonna grab a little bit closer together. And you can see now I'm blocked and I can't go any further than, oh, I can. We want to do full rotations, meaning all the way back and all the way forward. We will be starting with symmetrical rotations, both arms simultaneously, backwards and forward. We're going to move on to the second exercise, asymmetrical rotations. Only one arm moves and the other arm stays stable. And then we switch directions. Backwards, forward, backwards, forwards. Exercise number 3. We're going to start in a full extension above our head, and we're going to pull as closely as possible to our back, all the way down, extend both arms, and repeat the whole process again. Now, at the very top, we have scapular elevation, pulling the shoulder blades up. And at the very bottom, we have scapular depression, pulling the shoulder blades down. And in between, we have adduction, pulling the shoulder blades together, and abduction, pulling them apart. So we're going through an entire range of motion. We have symmetrical rotations, back and forward. We have asymmetrical rotations and switch directions. And we have close to the back, bend, downward extend, bend, upward extend. That should, at the very least, take care of the flexibility problem for now. And additionally, we have a fourth and final exercise for shoulder mobility or flexibility that is going to include the tiniest bit of strength as well. So we're going to start out with all four on the ground, quadrupedal position. I just learned that a couple of days ago, thanks to one of you guys. We're going to extend both legs like so, and now we can keep those legs bent so we can focus more on our shoulder and upper body mobility instead of our hamstring and leg mobility. And all we want to do is push our upper body towards our legs as closely as we can. Loaded stretch where we have extra weight pushing us into the stretch itself. Which moves us to our first strength dominant exercise. Now, dips are not a shoulder exercise per se, but we're gonna still use it to combine a stretch in our shoulders at the deepest level with arm strength and shoulder strength combination. At the very top, we're gonna rotate our arms and extend those shoulders fully to include some trap activation as well. So now we have a stretch. At the very bottom, we have a medium amount of strength inclusion and full extension at the very top. All the way down, stretch it through, all the way up, extend fully. Be sure to hold the lowest spot for a second or two so we can really get into that stretch, and then full range of motion, extension, and lengthen those shoulders once more. Now we have connected our arms, our chest musculature, and our shoulder musculature into a single move that combines both mobility and strength. Which brings us to our next exercise, which is going to be a plank position, but not just any plank position. But we're gonna turn our hands outward like so, and we're gonna stay on the back side of our feet like so. Raise up, and now we're gonna lengthen those shoulders all the way around our back, flex our abdominals, and pull the head all the way down. And we're gonna hold it like so for as long as possible. Be sure not to fall into the mistake of pulling your shoulder blades together. We want to pull them apart as much as possible, lengthening those arms, lengthening those shoulders, and holding as tightly as possible with a flexed core. When you notice you are all done with the energy you have, now we're gonna move our knees down here, sit back all the way, push our chest towards the ground for the tiniest bit of a stretch in our chest, deltoid, and biceps insertions for 3, 2, 1. And then we're gonna repeat once more for another static strength endurance plank, which moves us to a more strength dominant exercise. Classic single-sided overhead press, and of course we're pulling from here up and inward, outward, and down. Full range of motion, full extension, and back again. Full extension and back again. And even though I am not a big fan of using weights, this exercise is just a bonus, and you're gonna notice with all the other exercises combined, this one is probably one of the easier ones and best used less frequently, because I think most of the other exercises are a lot more effective in both strengthening, adding flexibility and control. But if you are more into using weights, then adding an overhead press is definitely not the wrong way to go about it. Which brings us to our final shoulder strength exercise. We're gonna start out in a handstand position, very close to a wall. Open those legs. We're gonna start with both arms and hold fully extended. Second exercise, if you have the strength, we're gonna pivot to one side, shoulder touch, pivot to the other side, shoulder touch, pivot, shoulder touch, pivot, shoulder touch. Now, this is a bit more of an advanced exercise, so be very careful with this one. But as you can see, way more effective than overhead press, and the combination of all of these exercises combined is absurdly effective in making those shoulders into indestructible boulders. Which moves us to the final part of this video, control. For this one, I want you to grab a resistance band. However, if you do not own one, there is absolutely no problem in using a stick. The benefit of the resistance band is that in combination with the control part, we're gonna have the tiniest bit of strength as well. We're gonna start out with both arms fully extended, and we're gonna bring our shoulders all the way forward. Shoulder abduction, pulling them apart from each other, and shoulder adduction, pulling them together. As you can see, we are working symmetrically, meaning with both shoulder blades simultaneously. Pull in, adduct, extend, abduct. Scapular adduction, scapular abduction. We're gonna do the same thing in a downward rotation, abduction and adduction, abduction and adduction. And we're gonna do the same thing in an upward rotation. As you can see, moving my arms extended down, rotates my shoulder blades upward. Upward rotation, and pull together, adduct your shoulder blades, your scapula, and abduct your shoulder blades. We've worked symmetrically. Let's go a step further for a bit more advanced control movements. Neutral position, singular adduction and abduction, or asymmetrical adduction and abduction. The same goes for downward rotation, pull in and extend, pull in and extend, and the same thing goes, of course, in an upward rotation. Pull in, extend fully, pull in and extend fully. So now before we move on to the final 2 exercises, there's just one thing everyone should be able to discern for themselves, which is where our scapula is placed and in what position we have it. So adducted and abducted, we already know that. We have upward rotation, we have downward rotation, but we also have scapular depression, pulling the shoulder blades all the way down, and we have scapular elevation, pulling them all the way up. Knowing where your shoulder blades are placed and what you need to work on is really important for learning that control in your shoulders, and that is going to help you strengthen that mind-muscle connection, which is going to be beneficial for everything related to shoulder work, be it mobility, strength, flexibility, or control. So it's an all-around beneficial thing to do. Even if you don't do any of the other exercises, just doing the control part is really effective. Now we're doing the final 2 exercises, and we're going to end it with a bonus exercise that is going to change everything for you. But before we do that, let's start out with the easier one of these 2 exercises first. We're gonna need a bar, any sort of bar, and if you are short like myself, you're gonna need to jump up here. So we have to start the exercise in a passive hang. Just so you know, an active hang would be something where we're holding on and we have multiple muscles flexed to pull our body up. A passive hang would be just grabbing with our hands. The only part that is flexed is our forearms because our hands are grabbing, and the rest is fully relaxed to pull us into the longest position we can get into with our body. And then we're gonna do our first symmetrical scapular pull-ups. Pull those shoulder blades together and depress them, which is why we learned before what those things mean. Scapular adduction and depression, scapular abduction and elevation. Adduction and depression, abduction and elevation. One more time. Pull together, pull down and pull apart and extend. The harder one of these 2 exercises, same starting position, and we're gonna do asymmetrical scapular pull-ups. One arm, and then the other arm. Keep it extended, rotate your shoulders into upward rotation and pull up, and reverse it, upward rotation in the other side. Reverse it and switch at your own pace. Now we have learned to do symmetrical scapular pull-ups and asymmetrical scapular pull-ups, which looks a little bit like this. And of course, the final exercise is not gonna surprise anyone who's ever been on this channel before, because I talk about passive hangs and decompressive hangs so goddamn often. That's what we're gonna do, a passive hang. If you have the strength, I would recommend do it single-sidedly, because the decompression is going to be insane in your shoulder joint. All you need to do is grab strongly and relax everything starting at your elbow. Fully let yourself be pulled down by gravity and have your shoulder joint decompressed, and then switch to the other side and let everything be pulled apart. Not only are we stretching all the muscles that are surrounding our rotator cuff, we're also decompressing the joint, which is going to help us in the long term. If you don't have the strength to do one side at once, then do it with both hands holding on. The only requirement for this exercise is that starting at your elbows, you need to fully relax your body all the way. If you're tense, you're gonna be in an active hang and you're not gonna get all the benefits we wanna get from the decompression part. And there you have it. We learned a little bit something about flexibility. We learned a little bit something about strength, be it if we're using the weights or if we're using calisthenics exercises. We learned a little bit something about control and how to use it to further our progress. Now, if you do all of these exercises, your shoulders should be basically indestructible unless you do something very, very, very wrong or end up in like a car crash or something. Your shoulders should be a-okay. And I would know ever since I do most of these exercises, I never had a single issue with my shoulders. Sure, I tore my meniscus a couple of months ago, but that's my knee and not my shoulder. My shoulder is absolutely fine. And if you do all of these exercises, or just take the most beneficial ones of these and add them to your own repertoire, that should be more than enough to get you going. Sadly, however, that's all the time I have left for you today. I have like 40 people waiting for me in the yoga session. But if you like the video and subscribe and join us more often because we have new videos every single day. I hope I'll see y'all soon. Captain Cairo. Peace out.